The Taliban has captured its 8th provincial capital in Afghanistan, this time in the city of Pul-e-Khumri, the capital of Baghlan province, which is just north of Kabul. Earlier, fighters overran the city of Farah in the southwest after a fierce gun battle. Afghan forces also battling the Taliban to save the provinces of Helmand, Kandahar and Herat, but they are struggling to stop the armed group's rapid advance as U.S. troops complete their pullout by the end of this month. Let's get more from Rob McBride now, who joins us live on the phone from Kabul. So, Rob, another worrying development this for the Afghan government forces, given that this particular city is quite close to Kabul.
That's right. This is a blow for the Afghan government. It is, as you say, it is the 8th province now to fall in a short number of days. There has been fighting in this province for the past couple of days, and the security forces in Pul-e-Khumri have come under pressure, and it was claimed earlier by the Taliban that they'd forced the security forces out. That has now been confirmed to us that, in fact, this has become the latest provincial capital to fall to the Taliban. It is one of the less important provincial capitals. There have been a number of smaller cities that have fallen. It's still in this northern swathe of the countryside that has seen a lot of the fighting. But nonetheless, it does bring that fighting closer to Kabul, and that must be the concern for the government, that we have seen so much fighting really across the whole of Afghanistan in the past week or so. In fact, around half of all of the provinces are reporting some sort of conflict or clashes of different degrees. So this is the latest province to fall. As far as the government is concerned, its priority now is to concentrate on some of the more important provincial centres, such as Mazar-e-Sharif and Herat, centres that it does certainly still have control of, and put its resources there. It says it does have plans to retake some of these lesser provinces, but given the pace of the advance by the Taliban, it remains to be seen if it's going to put those counterattacks into effect, and if indeed they will be successful.
Rob, thanks for that update. Rob McBride there on the line from Kabul for us. Well, the setback for the Afghan government comes just hours after emergency talks began here in Doha to stop the violence. The top U.S. diplomat for Afghanistan is in the Qatari capital for those discussions. We'll have the latest on the fighting in a moment. But first, let's go to Mohammed Jamjoom in Doha for more on those talks. Mohammed, what do you know?
Well, Hazem, the talks have officially ended for this, the first day of these emergency talks here in Doha. Just in the past 45 minutes or so, we saw U.S. Special Envoy for Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, as well as members of the Taliban delegation leaving the conference center just behind us here at this venue. They did not make any remarks to the assembled press, and that's really been a theme throughout the day. Many of the diplomats here just not speaking on the record or on camera throughout the day, really waiting to see what happens as a result of these talks. There is a great push here by many international actors. Throughout the day, you've had the envoys from Qatar, from the UK, UN, EU, China, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan, as well, of course, as the U.S. They've been here. They met first with a delegation from the Afghanistan government, led by Dr. Abdullah, head of the National Reconciliation Council of Afghanistan. That meeting lasted just about an hour and a half, and then a couple of hours after that, you had a much longer meeting, which was between these envoys that are here and the members of the Taliban delegation. Again, unclear what exactly was said during those meetings, but if you take a step back and look at a statement that was issued by U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad earlier today, he said the following. He said in several planned rounds of meetings over 3 days, representatives from countries in the region and beyond, as well as from multilateral organizations, will press for a reduction of violence and ceasefire and a commitment not to recognize a government imposed by force. So it certainly seems to indicate that one of the messages that was perhaps conveyed to members of the Taliban's delegation would have been that the international actors assembled here are not going to recognize any government in Afghanistan that is seized by force, seized by the Taliban by force. Where exactly this leads to next is anybody's guess. One of the things that the diplomats that are assembled here would like to see happen is they would like to see the inter-Afghan dialogue, the inter-Afghan peace process, which has been playing out here in Doha since last September, the last meeting of which happened in mid-July. They'd like to see that get back on track. Some have suggested throughout the day that perhaps maybe an announcement could be made before the end of these meetings that another inter-Afghan peace talks session might happen. But again, that's all just speculation at this point. Really, what these international actors want to see happen is they want to come up with some sort of joint plan to try to get things back on track in Afghanistan, to try to come up with some sort of joint plan to respond to a very rapidly deteriorating situation in Afghanistan. Hazem?
All right, for the moment, Mohammed Jamjoom live for us there in Doha. Thanks, Mohammed. Now, the European Union says about 400,000 Afghans have been internally displaced by the fighting in recent months as more provincial capitals fall to the Taliban. Thousands have fled to Kabul. But as Charlotte Bellis reports from the Afghan capital, they have arrived to find little support.
Thousands of people have arrived at this Kabul park. The majority have come from northern Afghanistan, predominantly the provinces of Taha and Kunduz, both of which, their provincial capitals, fell to the Taliban over the weekend. People here tell us that they were bombarded with airstrikes, there was constant gunfire, and they struggled to find a way out.
They were firing one bullet, but the government forces were firing hundreds of them over our heads. Then I said to my wife, let's leave everything and just run. Our area is destroyed. People were running past dead bodies and not stopping.
People here have told us it was a real challenge even just to reach Kabul. They really struggled to find transport to get them from the north. They had to take the seats out of buses to pack more people in. They said it took them about 10 to 12 hours to reach Kabul and that they had to cross through Baghlan, where there is a big battle between the government and Taliban.
When I was leaving the city, I noticed the families were gone from their homes. They locked their doors. There were women on the streets running and there were lots of airstrikes. I saw one woman who was hit and injured, maybe with a mortar. When I saw that, I cried for hours.
When the Taliban came, they looted everything. They burned our houses. We just ran. We left our clothes and left our front door open and just ran. Now we live in these tents. Please help us.
The government is offering some handouts. People in Kabul are offering donations also. But as you can see, there is very little support, shelter, food or aid for the people arriving here. Now, the UN says this situation is not unique. They say that in the first week of August, they have counted 70,000 people who have fled their homes due to conflict and are in need of their support. They also say 30,000 people are fleeing the country every week. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera, Kabul.